Hello and welcome to Austin, Texas for round 6 of the FIA World Endurance Championship. My name's Alexa Rendell, I'm joined by Sam Smith and it's time for our race preview brought to you by Le Mans Ultimate, the official game of the FIA World Endurance Championship. Now, summer break is over, school is back in session, and where better to be than the United States of America. We've had some incredible racing here before, but it's been a little while since we've been here at COTA. And Sam, we're here at Turn 1 right now. It's a phenomenal landscape. It's going to be such exciting racing this weekend. What can we expect from this place?
Well, I'm looking forward to this so much. This track is like a true roller coaster. The undulation from the start of the race to up here to Turn 1, and then you've got that fantastic sort of snaking Maggots Beckett style Silverstone snake halfway through the lap, and then a long straight. Very challenging for the drivers here. It's going to be very humid. There's the threat of storms potentially on race day. So there's a whole mix of challenges that the drivers and the teams are going to have to face here this weekend.
But some of the hypercar teams have already been testing here this weekend, haven't they?
They have, yeah. They came straight after Interlagos. The majority of the hypercar squads came. They learnt a lot about the track. It's been resurfaced recently. You can see on here, these boots were made for walking, so you'll be able to feel exactly the smoothness of the track. I think it's the first time actually since it's opened that it's been resurfaced. So that's going to put a new set of parameters into how the drivers and teams are going to take on this challenge of COTA. I think there's a lot of unknowns, but it was vital for them to test and get that data to Michelin in particular to see how they can get the duration of the hard tyres, because at Interlagos last month it was all about the medium tyres, and we saw Toyota doing the entire race on medium tyres, whereas here it's all going to be about how you work the hards and how you allocate those tyres for the race.
Well, how about we start off by talking about our championship leaders with Porsche Penske Motorsport. It is technically a home race for the team this weekend, coming from the Penske side. I think the consistency has been their strong point this season, but as we enter into these final 3 races, I want to know what your thoughts are on the fact that the number 5 isn't that far behind the championship leading number 6. Do we expect to see the number 5 starting to play a supporting role in getting the 6 to that championship title, or are they still in the race?
It's a really interesting question. You know, Porsche really won at least 1 title, if not 2 titles. Manufacturers, there's just 4 points in it in the manufacturers. Porsche leading Toyota. Toyota won at Interlagos, putting a bit more pressure on Porsche, but they've been so consistent, as you said. That number 6 car got a win and 3 second places. They really have a momentum, and I think it was crucial at Interlagos when they had that challenge of the contact with the number 12 Jota, and they damaged the car, they got the puncture, and they fought back superbly. They were offset on their strategy, they made the most of it, they maximised every part of that race to get that second position, and that's exactly the kind of result that wins you championships. Whether the number 5 has to support, I think it's a little bit too early. I think they'll make a call on it race by race, but of course we've essentially got back-to-back races here because Fuji's only a fortnight away. Yeah. I think if Lotterer, Estra and Vantour come away from COTA and they've got a 25-point lead or more, then I think the call will probably have to be made in conjunction with the number 5 car.
Well, actually looking at Toyota, they are currently in a really similar situation where the number 7s mostly had the consistency throughout the season. They've done that thing where they've managed the recovery drives where necessary. I'm thinking Le Mans, I'm thinking Interlagos. But the number 8 won last time out Interlagos is starting to close that gap to the leaders. That team dynamic is something that they do know how to handle at Toyota, but it could be tricky here this weekend.
Yeah, and remarkably, Toyota have never won here at COTA, which I found an incredible stat. Wow. But they finished here twice in second place in 2013, which was their first visit here, and then in 2020 as well. And Sebastian Buemi is the most winning driver in WEC history, has never won here at COTA. So that's going to be a box he personally wants to tick, and obviously Toyota were going to want to do back-to-back victories. The number 7, I think everyone's agreed the number 7 was going to probably dominate that race before its issues, some reliability issues that had to be addressed. Fought back superbly with that epic move that Kobayashi made.
How fun was that, right?
I mean, seeing it from the onboard, if you've not seen it, go to the full access and see the build-up to that move that Kobayashi made on the Ferrari. Absolutely exquisite move by the Japanese champion there. I think looking at how Toyota will play it, they'll really just go into it like they did at Interlagos, in the sense that they'll work through free practice, they'll work with the tyres and the setup, trying to get some consistency on performance, and they should be right in the mix again. I expect it to be, again, a bit like Interlagos, a Ferrari, a Porsche and a Toyota all 6 of them in contention, and obviously when you add in the privateer Porsches as well, it could be even more.
Actually, let's move on to Ferrari, the third of that trio that's kind of in the fight for the manufacturers and the drivers' championship. Ferrari have got a little bit of a monkey on their back now. We keep talking about this, the fact that they have only won at Le Mans. And you said to me earlier that you feel like this track has a lot of similarities, perhaps to Le Mans. Could this be a weekend that solves things for them?
Yeah, I mean, there are some similarities to Le Mans. Long straight, some really fast-flowing corners. A few there where you need a bit of traction. I think Ferrari's package will suit this surface. The unknown is, of course, the aforementioned track surface change, but they were part of that testing bunch that came here in July, and they will have learnt a great deal about this. I see this race as really getting their title ambitions back on track. I mean, they're not far away from Porsche and Toyota in the manufacturers. They can still do it, but of course they've got to start winning. They've got to at least get podiums here, I think, in COTA, lose that momentum for Fuji. We saw Fuji was a tough race for them for many reasons last season. I think if they can just get on top of their package through all the different constituent parts of this challenging track, then yeah, they could be right at the forefront this weekend. And, you know, each of their drivers has shown this season that they're at the top of their game. So yeah, you know, Nick Nielsen made a mistake at Interlagos. He made up for it in the end. But actually, when you look at their season, the mistakes that have happened, whether by team or by driver, have been actually pretty small. I mean, Imola was a different case, but they haven't made that many mistakes. They've just not had either the rub of the green or the general consistency of pace, as we saw in Interlagos, to mount a challenge for victory. But I expect them to potentially be leading the way come Sunday here at COTA.
The other privateer team that I want to start us off by talking about is AF Corsa. There was quite an interesting interview that came out the other day with Robert Kubica saying that he would be looking for a factory seat. It's something he's really interested in finding for his WEC career. But he's been causing quite the drama in the last few races. I think a lot of teams are going to be starting to notice that and noticing the chaos, really.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Robert is a non-compromised driver, supremely quick, extremely, I'd say, intelligent racer, but it's all on his terms. I think sometimes in traffic you have to make the call. The thing is with these races is it is so brutally ruthless. You can't back off every lap. You're going to lose 2 or 3 seconds per lap. That puts you out of the top 6, if not top 10. They are on it. It's a complete sprint every single lap, every single sector. Yeah. And Kubica is just made to do that. That's why he's so good as an international racing driver and has proved it over the years. I think what we've seen, I mean, clearly Interlagos wasn't his fault. You know, Julian Anlauer took the rap for that. Le Mans was his fault. He got a penalty for it. They lost some momentum. Could they have lost the victory? Probably not, but they could have potentially got a podium. They had other issues in that race. Yeah. And interestingly, Robert now is sort of insinuating to the media that potentially he wants to get a factory seat rather than a sort of privateer seat. It's affiliated to the Ferrari factories, the AF Corsa number 83 car. So yeah, really interesting one. We're right in the maelstrom, in the eye of the hurricane of the driver silly season at the minute.
Oh, it's glorious, isn't it?
Well, there's a bit more to come, but let's crack on with the hypercars.
Yeah, let's talk about Cadillac, because before we get to driver silly season, there was actually teams silly season over the summer break with a change for the Cadillac team that they're going to be working with next year. Can you tell us a little bit about it? Yeah,
that's right. The Chip Ganassi racing team is not going to be running the Cadillac hypercars next season. That's going to go to Hertz team Jota, who are running the Porsche. Porsche factory team is essentially the Penske operation, but Jota and Proton are the customer team. Yeah, a big move. I think everyone's a winner here. You know, Jota acknowledged as one of the very best privateer independent teams in sports car racing, endurance racing for the past decade really now. And I think Cadillac have got a lot of ambition to take the challenge to Porsche, Toyota and Ferrari at the front. You know, they've had some good results. They got a third, obviously, at Le Mans last year. They got a fourth on their debut at Sebring. They're back here on home turf. Earl Bamber and Alex Lynn have been the deadly duo. Some real pace from those guys at Le Mans and last time out at Interlagos.
Well, actually, that's the point. Do they feel like they have something to prove almost in the midst of silly season, in the midst of these changes in their teams?
I think both drivers-wise, definitely. Yeah, I think they've put so much hard work into this package, developing it, honing it, working with the team. They'll want another big result by the end of the season. I think they can get it. We've seen in recent races that they've tended to fall back. They've been sort of a different sort of strategy on tyres. You know, I don't see that being as important here at COTA. The hards, as I said, are going to be really important for the hypercars to allocate and use properly. But I think Cadillac here on home turf can get another big result this weekend.
Well, actually, let's talk about the other side of the garage then, talk COTA. The number 12 took their first win in the Hypercar World Cup. It's a really promising sign for them. They're sort of in a similar boat with wanting to impress in silly season, right? Because you've got 8 drivers across 3 cars. That's going to get combined down to 2 next year. Now is the time for those drivers to be proving themselves, proving their worth and their speed.
I was just wiping a bead of sweat off there because I wouldn't like to be the management team of sorting all that lot out. Lots of interesting stuff going on at COTA. I mean, driver-wise, I think there'll be a degree of continuity from the Cadillac drivers, particularly Bamber and Lynn. I think, you know, Will Stevens, I think will stay there. There's been questions about Antonio Felix da Costa coming back, but he's probably not going to next season now. So, you know, Norman Nato has done a pretty solid job this season. I think, you know, he's still an attractive proposition for the team. Callum Ilott, there's a lot of rumours that Callum might be doing a full IndyCar season next year, which would mean it would preclude him doing a dual programme, sadly. There's lots of other talent out there. I don't think Sam Hignett has been, I think he's had his door sort of not knocked on, it's been sort of kicked down, I think, in the last few months.
And then let's also talk about the other customer team in Proton, because there's also the rumour that perhaps they might end up taking one of COTA's Porsches heading into next season. But for now, they are the only team that hasn't currently taken to the top step in the Hypercar World Cup, which is surprising given the strength of that squad. Yeah,
that's right. I think they've done a pretty good job. It's not been easy. We saw at Spa how quick they can be when everything's right. Harry Tinknell's back this weekend, joining Neil Jarni and Julian Andlauer. Yeah, they could expand to a 2-car operation next year. Obviously, it's easier said than done. It needs to make commercial sense and lots of other things too. I think if it does, there is a reasonable chance that maybe the recently signed addition to the Porsche factory roster, Nico Muller, could be in that car. I think that would be quite interesting. He's confirmed that he's leaving Peugeot now. He's going to be part of the Porsche squad in Formula E, another World Championship. Whether he can do a dual programme or not, we'll have to wait and see. But I wouldn't be surprised if he at least does Le Mans and maybe some other races for Proton if they expand their squad next season.
And there are some really good point scoring opportunities up and down the grid this weekend, but particularly looking to the likes of Alpine, Lamborghini, Peugeot. They were making progress in Sao Paulo. There were some seriously exciting battles for each of those cars. Heading into this weekend, who are you looking at for perhaps a surprise performance? Maybe even the BMW sneaking it in there with their IMSA experience in the US?
Yeah, it's kind of the second division, isn't it, really, of Hypercar. It's understandable why, you know, many new programmes in here. Peugeot isn't a new programme, but it's evolved, hasn't it? It's a different package, obviously, to what we saw last season. I thought Peugeot actually did pretty well at Interlagos. They had quite a solid race. The aforementioned Nico Muller I thought was really good. Lamborghini were right there. I think they were running in the top 6 at one stage, weren't they?
Yes.
And then fell back a little bit. I think Alpine, it's just a question of getting more and more data with that car. You know, I think they're looking more towards next season now. They're just getting more experience and trying to understand that A424. So I think of those, I've got a funny feeling that Peugeot could be quite strong here. If they carry that momentum and that sort of, they appear to have sort of plateaued really in terms of pace, but the reliability is there now. So if there's a few issues with other manufacturers, you know, they could easily be knocking on the door of at least a top 6, maybe even a podium if it goes their way. Yeah, potentially. Well, you know, they're owed one, aren't they, after Qatar? So
heart breaks from still on that one, doesn't it? Now, to wrap us up, let's talk about the sad news that Isotta Fraschini won't be joining us for the rest of the season, starting from this weekend. They announced it this week. Can you talk us through basically why that is?
Yeah, we're going to miss the Isotta Fraschini guys. They're really recalibrating the brand, I think, and their strategy going forward. I think they've learned quite a lot in what they've done so far. They had a reasonable run at Le Mans. Interlagos was difficult. They retired at Interlagos with issues. Yeah, I mean, it was an ambitious call anyway for something that really hasn't got any pedigree or any racing experience to come into the WEC at this level. They always knew it was going to be a struggle, but hopefully they can be back and we can see them back on the grid, because they brought a lot to the paddock in terms of commitment and working towards building that car into a bit of a quicker proposition than it was at the start of the year.
Yeah, we would really like to see them back and we wish the team well. Now Sam, your favourite part of the episode, hit us with your prediction for the weekend.
Well, my prediction is I won't wear a cowboy hat and I won't wear those boots or anything like that, let alone the cheetah skirt. But
I know I borrowed this off you.
I would say I think Ferrari are going to be hard to beat here this weekend. I again see it as a kind of two-tiered thing with Porsche, Ferrari, and Toyota. Yeah, Toyota, are they going to scratch that itch that they've had for the last decade here?
They're going to want to.
They're going to want to. I just feel as though Ferrari are going to be super strong here, and they're due a result, aren't they? Yeah, they won Le Mans. Take Le Mans out of it, and they haven't won a WEC 6-hour or anything other than a 24-hour race yet. I think it's their time. So I expect either 51 or 50. I'll go with 50. And I think that would be for the neutral, which we are, of course, all neutrals. I think that would be great for the championship, because they're naturally going to, irrespective of where the number 6 is going to be, it's going to squash up the title battle nicely.
Yeah, that we would like to see. What a battle that would be. Thank you, Sam, and thank you for joining us. Now, our LMGT3 preview will be coming very, very shortly. If you want to watch along this weekend, you can head to the WEC social media for all of the updates you need. And of course, you can watch along at FIAWEC.tv, unless you're in the US, in which case you need to head over to Max. But for everybody and anybody, FP3 will be live on our YouTube channel, so make sure you are following along with all of the on-track action from this absolutely incredible circuit. We will see you post-race for our race debrief.